Hey guys, this is Pastor Ron coming to you. And for those of you that have followed us um, through this series, you understand the trials and tribulations that we've been through to even get this video finalized. So this is actually a a part B to part one, if you want me to put it that way. But I have to redo it because the video all of a sudden began to um, skip and the audio is not up to par where we'd like it. So I'm going to redo that with a couple inserts. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it comes across clear. As you will see, Deborah's not with me today, but I have been under severe attack regarding these the revelation that lies behind the G7 and the D10 and how it all applies to Russia, Ukraine, the worldwide plagues, the incurable diseases, the big V, the concentration camps that are turning into hospitals or hospitals turning into concentration camps. So I'm going to get started on this. I want to make it as clear as possible. I'll just tell you in the beginning, there is a lot of research that has went into this, and I hope it helps you and your family have a better understanding of where we are today. As you can see, my right-hand lady is not here with me. She had some other things to do today, and I just really felt led to get this done. For those of you who do not know, I had a severe battle with COVID, and God healed me in the hospital and brought me out on the seventh day. I had lost 42 pounds and didn't receive any saline solution, no vitamins, no minerals, no help that way. And it was only by the grace of God that I escaped out of that hospital. So you could go back and look at our previous videos regarding that to help you and your family members. But let's get started on today's lesson, and thank you for tuning in. So first of all, please let me say this is one of the deepest revelations that I have seen in the Word of God. This single revelation covers a span of 2,500 years and is detailed. It is specific. And I hope that the revelation that God has given me, that I could communicate that to you clearly. God is definitely in the details, and revelation is progressive. So before the Lord moves you deeper or to a higher level, you must understand and accept what he has for you at each level. In other words, you must qualify to advance. This holds true in the revelation of the dream also that Nebuchadnezzar had in Daniel 2 regarding the dream of the great statue. It also pertains to Daniel 7, where the four beasts are there. That will take us to Revelation chapter 12, where those beasts are also spoken of. The great sign is spoken of in Revelation chapter 12, and the four beasts are also mentioned in Revelation chapter 13. So this is very, very detailed. It is a 2,500 year span of the pieces of the puzzle prophetically being put together, and it's crystal clear once you see the revelation. We're going to look specifically at the 10 toes and iron. That one of the links, I call it a link, a iron link that connects this prophecy over a 2,500 year span. So let's go to Daniel chapter 2, where the image was seen by King Nebuchadnezzar. In Daniel 2, 32 and 35, and Daniel 2, 39 to 42, those are our scriptural references. It's talking about the interpretation of this dream. So I want to specifically focus on the iron and the 10 toes because that will represent the 10 kingdoms or the 10 horns in the vision that Daniel sees later. We know now that I have revealed to the world that D10 is the 10 horns are the D10. In other words, this is a progressive, just like I've said before, these are like rungs on a ladder. Once you understand one and accept it, God reveals you another one. And we will see that these, you know, Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar that this dream was for the end times. It was for the last days. And that is exactly where we are. We are in the last days, living in the end times. I believe that we are the last generation, according to Psalms 90, verse 10. So we're going to look specifically at that number 10. We're going to look at the iron, and we're going to see how all this connects together. This also directly applies to Revelation chapter 13 and the 7 heads and the 10 horns of the last day beast. I also want you to see the toes are made of clay and iron mingled together in Daniel chapter 2. This is very important to understand because we will see this carry over to the image Daniel saw in chapter 7. Daniel 2, verse 36 says this: "This is the interpretation of the vision. The clues of the pieces of the puzzle of the kingdom are found here." These are prophetic pieces of the puzzle that fit together perfectly to reveal to us the generation that we're living in is the last generation. And all these signs and symbols and clues that are revealed will prove that to you and let you know we're living in that specific period. This is speaking specifically of the fourth kingdom because it is a kingdom of combined beasts. This beast is unlike any other kingdom. I say this is the United Nations, where the European Union will come out of. Iron is mentioned a total of 13 times in these verses in Daniel chapter 2. Please take a pen and paper. I'll show you 9 of them, but listed right above this are 4 more listed. But I'll start out here in Daniel 2, verse 40, just to show you the group of 9. So Daniel chapter 2, verse 40 says the main clue, iron, is mentioned 3 times just in verse 40. In verse 41, Daniel 2:41, iron is specifically mentioned 3 times again. This is in the feet and toes, another piece of the prophetic puzzle. And iron is mixed with clay. This specifically means that there is a political as well as a religious kingdom. The iron always in the Holy Roman Empire, the iron always represents the political side and the clay represents the religious side. So they merged together to create the Holy Roman Empire. Please let me pause here and tell you this. I have about 60 books that have been written. They're mini booklets. If you would want them, you please just send me an email in the description box below. If you just want added to my email database, I will add you immediately. If you would like any of my booklets, according to the videos that you watch, we just ask for a $10 donation. That is it, and that just helps me with the printing and the postage and the mailing and getting everything to you to cover all our expenses that way. So I appreciate everybody who is ordering those, and we could get those to you by email if need be the exact same day. I'll just send it to you in email form. So in Daniel 2:41, iron is mentioned one time. Daniel 2:43, iron is mentioned two times. And in Daniel 2:44, here is a huge clue and piece to the prophetic puzzle that connects this chapter in Daniel 2 with Revelation 13. This kingdom is in existence when the stone is Jesus. He's the stone that the builders rejected. Jesus returns to set up his kingdom on the earth for a millennial period. That is a 1,000-year period. The world is not going to end now by fire. What is going to happen is the Messiah is returning back to the earth to set up his kingdom on this earth, and he will rule and reign forever. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 45, it says this, that the dream is certain and the interpretation is clear. That is an absolute promise in the Word of God. Please understand the importance of this dream and the interpretation thereof. It is one of the greatest links and keys to reveal the pieces of the prophetic puzzle from Daniel 2 through Daniel 7, and to finally the last generation, which we will cover today, which is found in Revelation chapter 12, when it mentions the great sign, all the way through when it talks about the great sea and the beast that came out of that sea in Revelation chapter 13. This is the link of iron of the prophecy that carries over and connects these two together. Remember, Revelation is progressive. You must accept the revelation God shows you and then still be looking for it to carry over to the next stage. They are somewhat like hidden clues or pieces of a puzzle that you see prophetically. That's the only way that I can explain this to you or describe it to you. Always in the Holy Roman Empire, there is a religious ruler who will eventually be the false prophet, and there is a political ruler who will be the Antichrist. And this will be seen in these heads and the 7 heads and the 10 horns, in which we'll talk about later. And I believe those are on the earth today, in existence on the earth. So therefore, this is what we are looking for in the end times and the last days, to see if this is occurring in our lifetime. If we was looking for this 10-year generation period, according to Psalms 90, verse 10, that brings us to 2017, 2018, to 2027 and 2028. Now, if nothing was happening prophetically in this window of time, then we can close the books on this issue. But I have over 80 prophecies that have been fulfilled. And we can prove them to you. They're in detail. And they really don't even include any of these out of this revelation. But they're all in existence. There's probably well over 100 or more. Therefore, this is what we are looking for in the end times, the last days, to see if this is occurring in our lifetime. Please remember, the link of iron is the perfect prophetic piece of the puzzle that holds this revelation together. There was 13 times just in Daniel chapter 2 that the clue, the piece of the puzzle prophetically, was mentioned specifically. And another important piece to that puzzle is it usually is in the last part of the prophecy. Like we started at the head and we worked our way down through the chest and the waist, and the legs were iron. They were the iron. The iron is the holy, the Empire of Rome. When Constantine was ruling, the Roman Empire was split in 2 parts. Instead of just one, it became 2, the east and the west. And then we see, as it mingled down, the clay, the holiness, because of Constantine being a Catholic, it was added in to the Roman Empire. So now we're going to go to Daniel 7 because of time, and we're going to look at these four great beasts in detail. Number one is found in Daniel chapter 7, verses 4 through 8. We're going to talk about the lion. Now, for those of you that watch us or study with us prophetically, you know that the lion is Great Britain. And this lion, the lion had eagle's wings. And he said he watched until those wings were plucked off of that lion, and those wings, the representation of the wings, were made to stand upright like a man, which would have been Uncle Sam, and he was given a heart. So we know that Great Britain is where the United States has come out of. That happened in 1776, the Declaration of Independence, and that shows us clearly that the United States is in your Bible prophetically. So that would be 1 and 1A is the way I would like to say that. Number 2 should be very clear to us today, because number 2 discusses the great bear. Each one of these animals are a mascot for a king or a kingdom, and that is spoken of also in Daniel in this chapter. The bear, I think we can all agree now, is Russia. Russia is clearly the bear, the Russian bear. The question you need to be asking yourself right now is Russia in the news now? And we see that is prophetically in all the things that Putin is doing and in the discussion and the topics with Ukraine. Is there a country represented by the great bear that is in the world news today? And the answer is absolutely yes. There is no way humanly possible that anybody could have fulfilled any of these scriptures, that the prophecies were given 2,500 years ago before these countries even existed. And for them all to be on the scene at the exact same time, doing exactly what the Bible said they were going to be doing, is impossible. The only one who could make this happen would be God himself. Number 3, we speak about the leopard. The leopard had 4 wings on his back. Those wings represent the 4 Reichs of Germany. The leopard is Germany, and Germany has 4 Reichs. Adolf Hitler was the 3rd Reich, and we believe right now we are in the 4th Reich, which they call the Industrial Revolution. And we will discuss that a little bit more in detail when we tie the G7 and the D10 to this, because that is the main link that they want to implement, like they are doing right now, a one world economy. So keep your eye on Bitcoin and that whole system, the international banking, and just use some wisdom. Number 4, finally, the 4th beast that is unlike any other beast, I feel, is the last beast, is the United Nations. This is where the European Union will come out of. Please remember the importance of the iron, the feet, and the toes, as we've already discussed in Daniel chapter 2. Daniel 2:7 says this: after I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. This would be exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth, and it was devouring and breaking in pieces and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the other beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Verse 8, I think I said it was in Daniel 2. That's what I was looking at. This is actually in Daniel 7. This would be verse 8. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up from before them, whom three of the first horns were plucked out by their roots. And there in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man. This is the only link that we see in this uh, revelation of the prophecy that links it with the United States. But it does, because in all these beasts, there was only one beast that was made to stand upright like a man. And here it said there were eyes like the eyes of a man. So is that a clue to us to say that the United States, I mean, we know the United States has something to do with these prophecies as we are seeing them unfold right now in the times that we're living in that specified 10-year window of that being the last generation. This is very important. So we will see what man comes out of that and what he really does. Is it talking about Trump? Is it talking about Biden? Or who is it really talking about? And a mouth speaking pompous words. The last beast is a worldwide kingdom, and it will have iron. The iron is carrying over the clues from Daniel 2 to Daniel 7. It also draws attention to the feet and the toes, where the 10 toes are the 10 kingdoms and where they're located. Very, very important. 7 heads and 10 horns. The great beast is also found in Revelation 13, 1 to 5. So we've looked at Daniel, right? Daniel 2, Daniel chapter 7. Now we're going to take that prophecy that was given 2,500 years ago and apply it to today. So we're going to start out by looking at Daniel chapter 7. At Revelation chapter 13. We're going to take it to the times that we're living in today. So Revelation 13, verses 1 to 5. Hey, Jim Marshall, good to see you, brother. Welcome. You got the floor, as they say. This beast was a beast coming out of the sea. Now, we know prophetically that the sea represents a body of people on the earth. But what is so ironic is I know a lot of you guys follow us, do your deep research in detail. And if you just search the G7 or the D10, especially the G7, you will see a picture. My wife Deborah showed it in our previous videos, in both of them, where you can see the G7 coming out of the sea. It looks like they are actually coming out of the sea as they stand on the sand of the seashore. It is a phenomenal photo that fulfills these prophecies, that there would be a governmental system representing the iron, the strength of a worldwide federation, a group of 7 that is called specifically the G7, made out of 7 countries, 4 of which are the exact beasts that were mentioned in Daniel chapter 7. Exactly. The first 4 are the 4 that Daniel spoke of in Daniel 7. So in Revelation 13:13, and the dragon stood on the sand of the sea. We showed you the picture. We showed you the G7 coming out of the water and out of the sea and standing on the sand of the seashore. Daniel 7:2, the winds were stirring up the great sea. This is where the beast came out of. It is actually in a picture in when you do your research, when you Google or search the G7. Also, the word sea in the Bible means the body of people. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 7 horns, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 crowns, and on his head were blasphemous names. This is specifically speaking of the G7 when he saw that beast in Revelation chapter 13 coming up out of the water. He described that beast in great detail. And he said that this beast would have 7 heads. I'm telling you today that that is the G7. And it would have 10 horns. I'm telling you clearly that that is the D10. Out of that G7, the first 4 countries are the 4 beasts that we read about in Daniel chapter 7. Verse 2, and the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Now, please watch this prophetically. Restoration, you will see things work in backwards a lot of times prophetically. Watch this, Revelation 13:2. Lou Drew, good to see you, Lou. I didn't announce this to anybody. I just wanted to come out and get this in on my own, so I appreciate some of the folks that follow us joining us today. So what we see here is a leopard. I saw was like a leopard. Now, we've already discussed and revealed that the leopard is who? It is Germany. Now, how do you know that? Well, first of all, Germany has leopard tanks. That's their mascot, in other words. And his feet were like those of a bear. Who was bear? Russia. And his mouth was like the mouth of a lion. Who is lion? Great Britain. So we can see right now that these 3 animals that was prophesied by Daniel 2,500 years ago that are mascots of nations, kings, or kingdoms. And we can see clearly that they are on the earth today, and they are headline news today. And the dragon, which I believe, we know it's talking about Satan giving him the power, but it can also represent China, because China is the great red dragon. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. I saw one of his heads as it had been fatally wounded, and his fatal wound was healed, and the whole world was amazed and followed after the beast. They worshiped the dragon because he gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast, and who is able to wage war against him? And a mouth was given to him, speaking pompous words and blasphemies, and authority to act for 42 months was given to him. Now, this is where we teach that the final week of Daniel's 70-week prophecy is 7 days, each day equaling 1 year. So this is a 7-year period. It is not 7 years of great tribulation. Please let me be clear on that. It is not 7 years of great tribulation. The great tribulation starts at the 3.5-year mark, where Satan, we know, is cast out of heaven, according to Revelation chapter 12. And it says that he has great wrath because he knows he has but a short time left. Okay, so this is speaking of that 42-month period in which this happens. Daniel 7 verse 8 speaks of a man speaking pompous words. We also know, according to Daniel 7, that this beast had the eyes of a man. So some of these link us to the United States. I'm just saying we need to keep our eyes open prophetically to see what unfolds out of the prophecies that were given. So this is another piece of the prophetic puzzle. Now, all this brings us to a place where we're looking at how this all applies to the last days and the end times. How could the interpretation of the dream of Daniel be linked or connected to the book of Revelation? Well, first of all, you must see how Daniel 2 links to 7 and how they both link to Revelation chapter 12 and 13 prophetically. So let me see here. So we'll start right here with several points. It says, so we see in Revelation 12 that Israel is protected by the wings of the great eagle. We've already established who the great eagle is. The great eagle is the United States of America. This prophecy was fulfilled specifically, if you want to know when, it was fulfilled specifically on September 23rd, 2017, as we will see in great detail later. We have established the eagle is the United States. Also, for this to happen, Israel had to be destroyed. So we know for a period of 1,878 years that happened. Then in one day, Israel became a nation again, and that happened in 1948. So from 70 AD, when Israel was destroyed, to 1948 is 1,848 years exactly. Point number two, then as we proceed to Revelation 13, we see immediately the beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns is mentioned. The 7 heads are the G7, as we've revealed, and the 10 toes are the D10. Number 3, remember the iron is mentioned 13 times in Daniel chapter 2. You must remember that. The iron and the clay is mingled together. We revealed this in Daniel 7, verse 7. After this, I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces and trampled the residue with its feet of it, and it was diverse from all other beasts that exist. Well, one day as I was doing my research, please hear the importance of this. One day, as I was doing my research, I saw that the G7 was holding a meeting regarding the one world order. That's how I seen this. God revealed this to me, I'm telling you. The G7 was holding a meeting regarding the one world order and the Great Reset. I immediately thought in my spirit, G7, I said to myself, I've been looking for 7 nations or 7 kingdoms who would be working together to implement a one world order. And this is exactly what was happening. I did a data search on the G7, and here is what I found. Listen, this is going to blow your mind. This is extremely important to understand, but this is what I found on the G7. The G7 countries, not one of these countries were in existence when the prophecy was given over 2,500 years ago. And they are all one on the earth now, creating the 7 heads Daniel and John prophesied would be. Here is a specific, detailed list of G7. Now remember, we're looking for the 4 beasts, if they would be a part of an end time, last day, last generation group of nations that would be setting up a one world order and or both a cashless society involved with the economic power of the world. Here they are. Here is a list of the G7. Look for the 4 beasts in Daniel. They're all here. Number 1, the United States of the America. This is the great eagle. Number 2 is Canada. Canada will go down in history for what those truck drivers have done up there in Ottawa, Canada, to break forth and break from the forces of this one world order to declare freedom. Number 3, The United Kingdom, Great Britain is here, the lion. Let's go down to our next number. Number 4. Guess who number 4 is? It is the leopard. The leopard is Germany. Can you believe this? I mean, this is a fulfillment of a prophecy that was given over 2,500 years ago. The Messiah himself had to come to the earth, be born, die on a specific day, resurrect from a certain day, resurrect from the dead. Because we know the first advent had to take place, because we went from Daniel 2 when he said that this vision is for the latter days, when the Messiah comes back and sets up his kingdom on this earth for a millennium, 1,000-year period. So in order for him to do that, he had to fulfill the first advent. And he covered it in the prophecy that this would go all the way to the second advent. Powerful stuff. Powerful, powerful, powerful stuff. That this is happening right now as we are alive on this earth. Listen, you are a part of the last generation. You are a chosen generation. You are a royal priesthood. Number 5 is Italy. Rome, Italy is the city, the only city that this could be talking about, that sits on 7 hills of where the false prophet could also emerge out of one of the largest ministries, the Catholic Church in the world. Number 5 is Italy. Number 6 is France. France has a president. His name is Emmanuel. And his first name is Emmanuel. His last name is Macron. That word, Macron, specifically means the mark. So I believe that this system is representing the false Messiah, and also the mark of the beast is coming out of this system. And France is one of the largest countries that are supporters of it. This man is sold out that you have to be fully big V and also have the passport to prove it. And if you cannot buy and you cannot sell. Number 7 is Japan. Now, listen to this. Number 8. Can you believe there's a number 8 in a G7? Tell me this isn't a mystery that only God could put together. Listen, country number 8. Interestingly enough, Russia is often considered the great number 8 because it was in as a part of the G7, and then also it was taken out. The European Union also sends a representative every year to sit in these meetings, so they have a firsthand on exactly what is going on regarding the one world order and the financial status of the world. Every summer, the political and financial leaders of France, Britain, Germany, Italy, Canada, and Japan, and the United States get together to decide upon the economic course of the entire world. People have no idea how this fits together. They call themselves the Group of 7 or the G7 nations. This is exactly what the Bible is speaking in reference to when it's speaking about the 7-headed beast that comes out of the body of water called the Great Sea and establishes a one world order on the earth. This certainly identifies them as the group consisting of 7 heads. This G7 agreement is another step towards the idea of a one world government. The Bible tells us of a coming out of Europe a Europe-based government that will ultimately be led by one that is called the beast, who will be the Antichrist that will come out of that kingdom as one person. Now, you should be asking yourself right now, who is the D10? So according to the revelation of this mystery that we showed you today, the 4 beasts come out of the 4 beasts in Daniel 7 come out of the vision in Daniel chapter 2. We've seen that in the iron and the 10 toes, how it carried over to Daniel 7. The 4 beasts found in Daniel 7 are carried over to Revelation chapter 12 and 13. Now, is there any way humanly possible that all of those countries that have been revealed to us today that are found in the G7, could they carry over and be a part of the D10? No way humanly possible. No way that could be humanly possible. Only God can put this together. So if you're asking yourself, who is the D10? Does the same link carry us over? Okay, that's what we're looking at right now. So what is the D10? Let's start off by that question. We're going to answer this question. What is the D10? The D10 group consists of 10 countries. So point number 1, the D10 stands for the 10 largest democratic nations of the world. India is also included in this list. Number 2, the UK or Great Britain decided to pursue the top 10 democracies of the world as an alternate. Listen, where does this come by? G5 is one of the biggest things that's being talked about on the earth today. So they chose this as an alternate to G5 equipment and technologies so as to avoid reliance on China's telecom giant. Number 3, Great Britain had proposed a D10 club of democratic partners that groups the specified G7 nations, so the exact same G7 nations are a part of the D10, and the Asian technology leaders, South Korea and India. That would be the D10. They just added on South Korea, India, and Australia. Tell me, are some things happening in Australia right now? Is not Australia, think about this, is not Australia one of the most devastated nations in the world regarding what is happening to countries on the world with the implementation of the one world beast and the mark of the beast? This is definitely happening. Number 1, it would include the G7 countries, Great Britain, as the UK, the United States, Italy, Germany, France, Japan, China, plus Australia, South Korea, and India. It is aimed for the channeling investment in the existing telecommunication companies with the 10 member states. This is where the G5 is coming from, my friend. I'm telling you. It plays a major role activating the graphene oxide that is found in your body after you are fully vaccinated. Look it up. Number 3, the group aimed to create alternative suppliers of the G5 equipment. This is worldwide, and other technologies to avoid relying on China. But now the group is being seen as an alternate arrangement against the authoritarian states such as China on efforts of Joe Biden, the new U.S. president. So, what is the G7? Number one, this is a collection of the 7 most industrialized countries in the world. Can you believe that one? And this was prophesied out of Daniel chapter 2, 2,500 years ago. Daniel chapter 7, 2,500 years ago. And it is happening right now. And they said it would happen right before the Messiah returns to set up his kingdom on this earth. Number 2, the G7 was formed initially to discuss economic and political concerns that were prompted during the oil crisis of 1973. Its first summit was held in France in 1975. Point number 3, it was one of the first political and economic groups. The 7 countries that are included in it are, you know what they are: Canada, United States, Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. But listen, this is very important. This is why I posted this from my research. It was earlier called the G8. Now, why was it the G8? But in 2014, Russia, the Great Bear, was a part of the G7. And then what happened? It stepped out of the group, the alliance. Number 4, these countries were the leading exporters, were with the largest gold reserves, and were the top contributors among the United Nations Fund. Number 5, the summit is held every year in one of the members' countries, and they invite 3 guests every year. The final stage of the whole pieces of this entire puzzle is knowing specifically what a generation is. We've spoken about this briefly today. Therefore, we know in the Bible a generation is a 70-year period, and a person gets an additional 10 years according to their strength. So I have been looking for this 70-year generation to fulfill, to see if any of these things happen immediately, and it did. I was looking for this for 20 years, for this 70-year generation period to happen, and that would put us in a window of 10 years. And this is exactly where we are, from 2017 to 2018 to 2027 to 2028, to see if anything would happen. And listen, all the Bible prophecies are being fulfilled right now. All of these must be seen in the last generation for these visions and these interpretations thereof to be fulfilled. Also, all of this must happen in a divinely destined appointed period of time. This is a specified, an appointed generation that has been chosen by God. All of these must be in existence when Jesus comes back to set up his kingdom on this earth. This also must happen within a generation from 1948. That is absolutely our starting time. That is our year that we begin to count. Why? Because this is when the fig tree budded again. This is when Israel put forth her leaves. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24 that when you see this happen, from this time, this generation shall not pass. So we are a part of that generation. For those of us who study eschatology, we know that Israel had to be destroyed. I've learned one very important lesson among many others, that one stone was not left on another, just like Jesus said. Israel was destroyed in 70 AD and did not become a nation again for 1,878 years. Many scoffers laughed at the Bible and said Israel would never become a nation again. Never. This was prophesied in Ezekiel chapter 37 and 38. This is the prophecy of the dry bones. Israel came back to life again. Israel became a nation in 1948, a miracle of all miracles. Yes, another sign of Bible prophecy. being fulfilled in the last days. This is happening right now in our lifetime. This will never, ever happen again. Jim Marshall says, thank you for your education and the Holy Spirit that dwells you. Thank you very much. Lou Drew, good to see you. So Jesus could not have returned to the earth before Israel became a nation. Do you understand that? All of these things that we're talking about today had to be specifically fulfilled. God is in the details, my friend, because he said he was returning back. Revelation is progressive. Before the Lord moves you deeper to a higher level, you must understand and accept what he has for you at each level. In other words, you must qualify to advance in the kingdom of God. This truth holds also in this entire revelation that we are looking at today. God works also, this is another very important thing that you must understand. God works specifically in 7-year periods called Shemitah cycles. And we've seen these throughout all of history when God accomplished these great feats and feasts. So these are 7-year periods called Shemitah periods. As I write this in September of 2021, this is also the ending of one year and the beginning of another that also falls within this divinely appointed time. So in other words, if you back 7 years off 2028, it would put you to 2021. And that is the beginning of a Shemitah cycle. It also is a 7-year cycle. And what did we learn about this? This window of time that we're talking about, the final week on Daniel's 70-week prophecy is a 7-year period. And this is exactly what's happening today. This is called a Moed or a Moedim, the last generation. I believe the final 7 years is a Shemitah cycle. I believe in the foreknowledge, in the power of God, that he aligned this to happen in this specified window of time. Amen? And this is happening. We must get this word out to the nations because we see what's being revealed on the earth today. We've talked several times about the verses found in Psalms 90, verses 10. This is out of the New King James Version of the Bible. The days of our lives are 70 years. This is revealing to you what a generation really is. The days of our lives are 70 years, and if by reason of strength, they are 80 years. So you're going from 70 to 80. This is that 10-year window of time that I'm always talking about. Yet their boast is only in labor, in sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Could that be a mystery? Could that be a hidden link to tell us that that is when the church is going to be caught away? At the end of that 10-year period, at the last trump of God. I'm just saying. Then the ending is really fitting here. When the generation is over, we fly away. When? At the coming of the Messiah. When does that happen? At the last trumpet. This is a very interesting point. Psalms 90, verse 10 is 70 years plus 10, or an 80-year generation. This is extremely important to understand that all of these prophecies I am mentioning are happening in this specified window of time. This is just unbelievable. I only have a few more minutes left to go. We're recording this for a television show, so I want to get this all in. I only have a couple more minutes, so I'm going to cover these points in great detail. So we all know that these are prophecies that have been fulfilled, that will never be fulfilled again. I'm going to give you probably 4 or 5 of them. So we know, all know in January 20th of 2017, Donald J. Trump stepped into the office or the presidency of the United States. History, Bible, prophecy fulfilled. Number 2, he specifically declared Israel as a nation that God said it would be. 2, can never happen again. Number 3, he also built the embassy in Israel and declared that it would be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Number 4, then he moved the U.S. embassy there to Israel. On December 6th of 2017, President Trump formally recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and stated that the American embassy would be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Powerful stuff, guys. Revelation 12, the wings of the eagle would protect Israel for 3.5 years. That's what the Bible says. The wings of the great eagle, the United States, would protect Israel for a 3.5 year period. Number 5, Donald Trump signed the Middle East Peace Treaty. If you like it or not, he signed a peace treaty between the Palestinians and the Israelites. He was sent by God to the earth to do that, and he accomplished what he was sent to do. All 3 countries officially committed to the deal on September 15, 2020, with the signing of the Abraham Accords. The covenant, the Abraham Accords, on the south lawn of the White House. This fulfills Daniel 9, verse 27. Number 6, also on September 23rd of 2017, we fulfilled and saw the great sign in heaven. The great sign was fulfilled. Number 7, then we immediately see another sign in heaven, the 7-headed beast with 10 horns. This represents the one world order, the G7 and the D10. Donald Trump's first term lasted from January 20th of 2017 to January 20th of 2021. We must agree that these prophecies have all occurred, or we could be deceived in the season or window of time we're living in now. Therefore, we can see clearly we're living at and in that divinely appointed window of time Jesus called the last generation. Look, I love you guys, and I had to get that all together. Jim, I'd like to thank you and Lady Lou for joining me today, and all the other people that will watch this later and also on our television shows. Please tune in to crossingpaths.org to view our evangelistic outreach and also the Faith Family channel. God is really opening up our platform to get the truth out. God had raised me from the dead. So I thank him for that, and I promise to preach the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Well, listen, love you guys. Peace. Peace to you. The peace that surpasses all understanding. Love and joy to every single one of you. This is Pastor Ron signing off for today. You keep seeking the truth. I love you.